Let's go.
We're on the record.
Cool. Good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019. It is 8:01. We are in room 206 of Darien's Town Hall, and this is Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting. Kev, kick us off.
Public hearing item number 1, special permit application number 304, Jeffrey Overman, 676 Hollow Tree Ridge Road, has been postponed to 1/29/2019. Number 2, special permit application number 305, site plan 168 West Avenue, LLC, 168 West Avenue, has been postponed to 2/5/2019.
Okay, so that means if you're here to speak on either of those items, the first one will be 1/29/2019, and the second one will occur on February 5th, 2019. Doesn't look like anybody's here for that, so go ahead.
Number 3, business site plan application number 90-0, special permit Pair Partners LLC, 1077 Boston Post Road, proposal to establish a new fitness studio use in the portion of the first floor space formerly occupied by Joseph A. Bank. The subject property is located on the northwest side of Boston Post Road, approximately 550 feet northeast of its intersection with Leroy Avenue, and is shown on Assessor's map number 73 as lots number 7 and 42. The shared parking on lots number 40 and 41 in the CBD and PR zones.
So, Jeremy, this is another personal service
It's
use?
a personal service use in what is the space which is now behind Cafe Nero. Cafe Nero took the front spot, leaving landlord Dwight Collins with this area behind Cafe Nero, which would access off the side of the building. Dwight just left on the table in front of you some revised plans which show where in the building CRS 50 is going. As you may recall, the commission approved CRS 50 for the area next to Fisherman's Net a few years ago. Since then, they've moved to Norotan Heights Shopping Center, and they're looking to move to this, I think, Dwight, you said it's about a 1,500 square foot spot?
Yeah.
Which would, as you can see on the next page, they're going to create a new door and accessway off the side of the building, which will be the side facing what is the Bankwell building. And you may recall that CRS 50 only had a limited number of machines, workout machines. You can see that on the third page. I think there's 11 machines, which obviously limits how many people can work out at once. The Architecture Review Board has looked at this. I believe you have their memo in your packet. And more information about CRS 50. Dave Sullivan from Malone McBroom is here. He did the traffic report, which is dated December 28, 2018, which talks about the business and the fact that classes are separated by at least a 10-minute gap, which would allow people to clear out. As you noted in the legal notice, it is a shared parking agreement. This building shares the, I'll call it the theater parking lot, which used to have a Christmas tree in it. But it's this building, the Darien Sports Shop, and the one other building, which is, I think, Inner Light, is the third building that shares that large parking lot. So, as Dwight said, employees will likely park in that bigger lot, and then certainly the public and the users will be instructed to use that lot as well.
Great. Anybody else have anything to add? Or I guess if you could just briefly just talk about the parking demands, whoever's best suited for that, and the peak hours of use, because I was surprised it stayed 15 all the way through. I would think the morning would, I know there's limitation space, but just briefly comment on that too, please.
Yeah, David Sullivan from Milona McBroom. Yeah, we were fairly conservative in our estimates. The average class size is 9 students or attendees, and I have 2 employees. And we took a pretty high estimate of 15 just to assume if there was some carryover between classes, and that's what we looked at. And the peaks are in the morning. 6 o'clock, I think, is the first class, and they go till about lunchtime, and then they go on hiatus, and then after dinner they start up again with 1, 2, or 3 classes, depending on the day.
Okay. And I think you answered my next question. So in your numbers, you included some spillover of the 11 average to the next class, because I said, well,
Yes.
if you expand the period between classes by another 5 minutes, will that make a difference? But you've kind of accounted for it in your numbers, it sounds like.
Yeah, and it would. If it turned out that, there was an issue, you can certainly just add another 5 minutes. But 10 is typically, would be okay.
Okay. Any other questions on traffic? Go ahead.
Is there any parking agreement between your building and the old Panera building, which is now the bank?
No. Just for the record, somebody from the audience answered no.
No.
Right, would you please, Mr. Collins, I think that's actually that's it. Mr. Collins answered no from the audience.
Thank you.
I think that's good enough, right? Okay.
That's right. That's the only reason why I ask, is because if I was going to the store, I'd park on that lot. Are they gonna put up signs that say no parking?
They're already there.
What's that?
They're there already. It's pretty clear if you're parking in there, you have to be there. They're up. They've been up since. the
No,
arrows.
I mean, that's, because that's now Bankwell.
And they're still there.
Right. Yeah. That's my only issue.
Okay. Any-
You can speak if you want.
Okay. Yeah, I
Could you
would-
introduce
Dismiss.
yourself?
Dwight Collins, one of the owners of the Darien Playhouse.
Thank you.
I would just say that initially, when we got the approvals for 1063 Post Road, the idea was to have everything, even though we had individual approvals, it was all shared. And so we've had conversations with the owners, new owners of 1063, and we're working out a flexible plan, because it was always the intention to have employees, people that were there, park in the major lot, so that
Right.
visitors and shorter-term parkers could park here. So-
Closer proximity,
Right.
okay.
Because I mean, me personally, I think the parking demand goes down for Bankwell versus when Panera was there.
Go ahead.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah, but now you got Nero, so it's a little bit of a wash, but
right, it's true. But the near is the same,
yeah.
same building, different
Yeah,
level.
yeah, yeah. All right.
More laundry.
Any other questions? All right, anybody from, anything else, gentlemen? Okay, anybody from the public speak on this application? I don't see any, so can I have a motion to close this public hearing?
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor? All right,
Public hearing,
Thanks.
item number 4, coastal site plan review, number 324A, flood damage prevention application, number 373A, land filling and regrading application, number 418A, Stephen Kent Eppley, 47 Mile River Road, proposal to raise and construct one portion of the existing residence on the property and to construct new additions, regrade portions of the yard, and construct a new circular driveway at the front of the property to perform related site development activities within regulated areas. The .43 acre subject property is located on the north side of the 5 Mile River Road, directly across from its intersection with Berry Lane, is shown on Assessor's map number 66 as lot number 6 in the R1 half zone.
hold on, let Jeremy just give a little
Because you may
overview.
recall that about a year and a half ago, you approved a application for this property for Dave Thomas. Since then, Mr. Eppley has looked to purchase the property and is looking to take down pretty much the entire house and construct a new house in essentially the same location. Property is right on the 5 Mile River, it's in the flood zone. It's also required variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals, which was carried over from Mr. Thomas's ZBA approval. And you saw in your packet a letter from Rich Jacobson on behalf of the EPC saying that essentially they can also have approval from the EPC. The work is right on the 5 Mile River. There's no associated inland wetlands with the property. So the applicant's looking to tear down the house, construct a new house that complies with all the flood regulations, construct a circular driveway in front of the house with associated filling and regrading in front of the house. And we have a drainage report from John Martucci, who recommends dealing only with water quality, because you don't want to hold back the water since they are right on the river.
So it's simply the coastal site plan review.
Coastal site
and
plan.
the land filling and regrading.
Flood damage, to ascertain that
Okay.
the flood vents and everything's gonna be properly elevated. AC units will be on a pad, if I recall. And land filling and regrading for the regrading in the front yard,
And the current house is not compliant with,
flood regs.
perfect.
Many
Okay,
feet people too low.
okay, good. Sir?
Jeff McDougall from Williams Seymour and Associates, representing Kent Eppley in this application tonight. One of the things to kind of clarify, the reason why we went back before zoning board of appeals on this was we're basically trying to keep the house, most of the house. I mean, the foundation is remaining, reusing a lot of the foundation and a portion of the residence. Part of the reasoning behind that is there will be a lot less impact on the site and on the neighbors. And we're actually going to be further away from the regulated areas, further away from the mean high water and the tidal wetlands. So this red area, obviously, that's the current buildable area. This is our proposed construction in here. This yellow area is basically the existing house, and that foundation, the main portion of that foundation is remaining. A floor in the main portion of the house will now, what is now currently the second floor, will become the first floor.
Just, what is the green area?
Hmm?
The green area?
The green area is setback based on an interpretation of the zoning board of appeals variance that was granted on this property before this house was built back in 1956. So basically, that variance established the front yard at 25 feet. So
Okay.
this will actually comply with the former variance. And one of the changes from this, in this plan compared to the Thomas plan is this circular driveway in front of the property to create a raised area that accomplishes a number of things. One, it provides for a safe area to park your cars during the flooding that happens on this property. And you can see in some of the photographs we have here that it does flood.
Yeah.
You can see the water, a few panels up on the garage door here. There's just nowhere to park a car on this
Yep.
property. You've got to have somewhere to get the car up out of the floodwaters. The new house will be, the foundation will have all of the proper flood venting, comply with all of the FEMA regulations with regards to the structure of the house. The grading also, this was the previous plan that was approved, and this is, now I think what you see is the way that was done. This is basically what we're going to be seeing. The driveway's going to sweep up in front, raise the grade in front of this porch. It'll all be a landscape area, kind of gradual rise. The house won't have, much of an impact. It will really not look imposing, just having it sitting on the ground as it sits now. So the raising of the grade accomplishes a number of things there.
Does that change any, like, flooding, when there's a flood event? Does that displace any of the water anywhere else that regrading? Okay.
No, you're looking at an area that, it's Long Island Sound, so when you look at this, and the engineers looked at it, and we do have someone from Roberge Associates, Aisha is here, and she can address the impact of the grading on the floodwaters on the property.
And your point on the parking getting safer during a flood event, how does that work?
That will be up here.
Okay.
So you'll be able to move your car up out of the flood events.
Okay.
And this flooding that you see in those photographs that's not that unusual anymore. You're seeing that, in these just storm events.
Nor'easters or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, it's becoming more and more common. So a lot of properties we're addressing that with now, getting somewhere to park the cars out of it. That's basically the proposal that we have here.
And there's no, sorry, John, there's no cutting. It's only fill in the front
Only
yard?
filling.
And what's the net fill there?
I don't know if I have a number on that. Do you have a number on that, Ken?
I believe it's 400.
400 cubic yards.
So yeah, it's okay if you said it, that's fine. Mr. Eppley from the audience indicated it was 400 cubic yards, and it was reiterated by you, so it's the engineer, so.
I have a question. So, the flooding that we see in front, so I see that the first floor elevation is 9.9, and then the adjacent grade, meaning the front, is from 6.2 to 7.3? Is that right?
The existing first floor?
Well, yeah, so that's at 9.9. So with the flooding we see in front, I'm just trying to understand where you're filling to make this area for the cars. So is that moving the 6.2 or 7.3, the 400, the net fill to what?
We're going to be getting up, I believe it's around elevation 10 in front of the house here.
Okay, so in those
It's now
pictures,
6.5.
it's exactly.
They're filling
So
3.5 feet in the front
3.5
yard.
feet in that one area. Okay.
Which is necessary to get above
It's like
the predictable floods that we're seeing in this area.
And how long of an area is it going to be outside the flood zone, roughly?
You can see it on the plan here,
Yeah.
we're talking an area basically in the main section of the house,
Yeah.
we're pretty much in front of the covered porch area here. Probably be able to put 2 or 3 cars in that area.
Distance of about 80 to 100 feet.
Yeah, just
Perfect,
about, just
okay.
about 80 to 100 feet. One thing this also accomplishes that some of the neighbors have commented on is that will help get the cars off of Berry Lane. I guess when people come and visit the house in the past, they've had issues with cars parking up on Berry Lane. This will now provide for some parking to keep the road clear in that area.
Perfect. Mr. Eppley?
Kent Eppley, yeah. So just wanted to be clear, because I wanted to check this. John was not able to make it tonight. So the application from Thomas was 400 yards of fill. They were not planning on filling the whole property like we are. Ours is closer to the high fives.
Okay.
It's, and John, I think, has that in his report,
How
unfortunately.
many truckloads is that, do you know, roughly?
What's that?
How many truckloads is that, roughly? Was it 40 yards a truck or something like that?
20,
20? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 20 to 25, depending upon
So-
the weight, yeah,
20 trucks.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
But clearly, I mean, you see the pictures, we didn't feel like the Thomas plan kind of addressed that enough. And to be honest, I bought it, and then we had the nor'easter that.
Yeah, no,
the
I was
last-
down there that
The
week, yeah,
last,
yeah.
Memory
Yeah.
was Sandy, right?
Yeah.
Well, that was a whole new reality and kind of had us rethink how we wanted to do it with race
I
involved.
think it's happened twice this year alone in some of these
Yeah,
events,
it's,
so. yeah, at
we
least.
are the bottom of
Yeah,
the bowl.
yeah.
We are literally the bottom of the bowl there, so.
That and around the turnaround down at the end of the public road. It
Yes,
happens there all
yeah.
the time.
So anyway, I just wanted to
Okay.
clarify that because I didn't have
Great.
that number off the
Ken,
top
is
of my head.
that part of the Tokenie Association?
It is
there?
not.
No.
So
It's
you don't-
outside.
You don't have the regulation of
Hours.
hours of truckloads and work
No,
and stuff
no.
like that?
No,
Okay.
Got it.
yeah.
Any-
It's a tight street.
Anybody else?
Well, we did that huge one in the end, remember? I mean, that was
The pink house?
just, yeah, I mean, that was a monstrosity that
Right.
looks actually pretty nice now. Okay.
Anybody else? Questions? Questions?
Jeff, are the plans here different than what the commission has? Is there any change?
Between,
What you're presenting and what the commission has, or everything's the same?
same plans, same plans. We have not changed.
Except for,
One item.
yeah. One of the neighbors would like to speak.
Yeah,
Oh,
Deb,
yeah,
we will,
okay.
we'll get them on. And then one other question
Sure.
for you, Jeremy. Is this one that FEMA took a look at again? Like, that second, I forgot the new terminology, but,
Well, in a case like this, they would want the new house fully
Yeah.
flood compliant, so they would certainly look with favor upon basically rebuilding the house to the new elevation 15 and installing flood vents and all the other necessities here. The commission would have to require an elevation certificate. But we went through this with Kent,
Fully comply.
Fully
That's what-
comply.
That's the whole plan here.
and the new house will be about 5 feet higher than it is. So the way Kent described it is accurate, is what's now the first floor, second floor of the house will almost pretty much be the first floor.
and to your, okay, so there will be a requirement, or we will, if approved, put a requirement for a flood elevation
Elevation certificate. once it's
certificate.
done.
Perfect.
Well, it's an as-built survey with the,
Right, and then
Flood vent.
Kent realizes he can need the as-built, because he's right up against the front setback, the rear setback, so he's,
But we did feel strongly, and we got support from all the neighbors. I had no one who who wasn't in agreement that this was a better plan that was previously approved.
Okay,
And the raising of that front helps transition that height, so it doesn't just feel, even though it complies with the height regs, it doesn't feel like a bump on a log.
yeah, I get it.
And-
We
and-
understand the sensitivities on the new flood regs and how sometimes they look pretty high.
And we do have Azure here. I'm not sure if she can come up and address the flood issues when it comes to the fill, I believe. So
If we need it.
let her have a couple of words here.
Yeah, well, yes, please, thank you.
I drove all this way.
Yeah.
Thank you. Azure
15 minutes of
Slicer.
fame.
Yeah, Azure D. Slicer, PE, principal with Race Coastal
Could
Engineering.
you introduce yourself, please?
Azure D. Slicer.
Oh, could you spell your first name for me?
Sure, AZURE space capital DEE. That's all my first name. Last name Slicher, S as in Sam, Leicher.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yes, so we performed a flood impact evaluation study on the proposal that included the raised grades, the proposed fill, the site walls. There's a little terrace area there in the proposal. And with respect to potential increases in the base flood elevation, wave run-up, wave reflection onto adjacent properties, and in consultation, and this wasn't the first pass, but in consultation with that analysis, we helped Kent and the team develop this plan that passes all of those tests so that there are no adverse impacts with respect to flooding as a result of the proposed grading and fill. And like Jeff and Kent had mentioned, all the flood vents, the first floor elevation, all of those things are in compliance with FEMA requirements.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I don't know who to address the question to. The dock and float that's on the drawing, is that existing?
That's existing. That's existed for quite some time.
All right, thank you. It looks like it's in a different place, but if it's the existing one,
May move around a little bit, but.
No, that's all right. Thank you.
Any other questions from up here? Seeing, you have anything else? Okay. Any neighbors like to
We
speak?
do have one.
Yep. Sure.
From
Yeah, former name.
My name's Brandon Hole. I live at 25 5 Mile. I bought the property in July of 18. Kent's been very good with me since the minute he bought the house. Has come by, showed me all his plans. I actually had a copy of Dave's plans prior to Kent buying the house. Really, I've sent some emails and I think in some other things that Ken's done just as in support, but I wanted to come and just kind of give you the face-to-face. Very supportive of the project, much better build for the neighborhood, much better, more appropriate build for the neighborhood and the street. I'm very supportive of the fill, actually, because my property is filled and Dave's property is a bowl. And so when there is a flood, there's a lot of lawn care and maintenance that is unnecessary if it is filled. So that part I'm very supportive of. I have asked Kent to do a couple modifications on the plans he showed me when he came over. We were looking at some things. A couple air conditioner units to kind of tuck around the corner of the house into a bit of a notch. Mainly this protects, so I look up the river and Kent's house will be here. And so what I've asked him to do is kind of relocate some air conditioning units around a notch and then relocate his generator on the edge of the garage. The good thing about Kent's design versus Dave's design is actually it doesn't encroach, but it's less close to my house. So he's got space for that generator. It's easy to cover with some kind of foliage. Like mine is the same exact thing on the opposite side of my house. So I've asked Kent to do that. He's agreed. I think it's a pretty simple change, but generally speaking, just here to lend my support. It's a good plan. It's much better than what was in place previously. And I think probably the right guy doing the work.
Great. Thank you very much.
So, Kent, the plans we have from John Martucci are last revised November 14th, or Jeff's plans are November 14th, John Martucci's plans. Do both those plans reflect the generator and the AC units behind the garage?
No, they're not showing the move. I can explain that real
You
quick.
just showed it quickly
Yeah.
on the plan?
And
So what we're staring at is November 19th, right? LNB Engineering?
Yep.
You guys can see the notch, and those are at 13.
If you see
Yeah, I see
here,
it.
we had behind the house, the AC and the generator, which
Yeah.
has to be further off the house for distance. Brandon's view is across the back here, up the river. So what I've agreed to do is take this generator and move it here, right behind this little parking area.
Okay.
So that opens that up for him, because that's gonna be screened also, so it's not just the generator, it's also the plant. And then take the AC unit and put it in this little notch here, so it's literally hidden from him. So it was, it makes total sense, probably should have done it from the beginning, but this is what we had submitted, not really realizing how it could affect them, and I'm totally fine with it. That's
Okay,
what
so
we do.
if would you need a revised plan if we?
Well, the commission could approve it,
Yeah.
subject to that. Now, the one on the side of the garage, that's gonna be, I'm looking here, that'll probably have to be on a 7-foot-high platform.
Yes.
So usually in the past, the commission for such high platforms has said, find something that either put a fence around it or sound attenuating or something. The ones in the notch in the back, I don't think anyone will see that. Those will also be on a 6.5 to 7 foot platform,
Well,
but the only people that would see that would be in row 8.
Now, wait a second,
Right,
Jeremy.
and that'll
Right now,
be
the elevation is
screened, too.
13, so if you put it on to 13 plus 7, it means you're making it 20 feet in the air.
No, it's,
Right,
it's
8.5
proposed
there.
13. If you look at the side of the garage, that's elevation 6.3 now. That little corner, that corner of the garage is
6.4.
it will be at 8.5.
Right, so you're doing a little filling,
Yes,
but
it's
generally it's gonna be a 5 to 6 foot platform.
Because the
Right.
driveway's 8.5, right?
And then
Yep.
we'll screen that.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, unfortunately, some of that's the realities of where you are.
No, understood. So just, I'm trying to, if we close this hearing, how do we ensure that it's built as we
Right,
just were
with the
explaining?
condition,
Okay, so you have what you need.
Do it as a stipulation.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And Brandon and I have talked about where we'd like to see it. It'll comply with
Yeah, got,
setbacks.
100%, got
And that'll
that.
show up on the plan when we submit for building permits and all. We will revise the locations of the.
That's what I was getting at.
Generator.
Okay,
Jeremy, it's a town road.
yes.
Do they have to get permission from anybody to make the second curb cut?
Yes, you have a memo from Darren Ostafine, I believe was in your
Yes,
packet.
yeah.
He
Okay,
talked
I'll
about the
look at
fact
it.
that,
My apologies. No problem.
that they will need a street opening permit, and Darren noted that the catch basin will be right at the bottom of their driveway, and Public Works isn't gonna move it. If Kent wants it moved, it would be up to Kent to move it. And Darren also noted the 2 existing drainage pipes, which run through the, I'll call it the eastern side of the property. And Darren noted there's no easements for those, and it's really up to the applicant to maintain those pipes in the future, because there's no easement for Public Works to do anything to
You
them.
wanted nothing to do with them.
you're not the first one to deal with that
The
assessment.
storm drainage pipes you're
Yeah.
talking about?
Yes,
The one that goes towards the
Those
dock?
seem to be not working so well.
Well, they
Already.
work when it's, the seawater's not above the
It works
outlets.
both ways.
Yes, exactly.
Water can
Keep
come
it
back
down.
Yes,
catch basin
exactly.
at times.
5 mils seems to be.
Okay, any other questions? Anybody else out in the audience? No, I can't see behind that. There's no one else? Okay. Can I get a motion to close this public hearing?
Move to close?
Okay, a second?
Second?
All in favor? All right, thank you, gentlemen. Yep.
Thank you.
Number 5, coastal site plan review, number 337, flood damage prevention application, number 388, land filling and regrading application, number 447, Hillhaven LLC, 18 Shennamere Road, proposal to raise an existing single-family dwelling,
Bless you.
to build a new house in generally the same location with a new driveway, patios, and a pool with associated grading, and perform related site development activities within regulated areas. The 1.9 acre subject property is located on the south side of Shennamere Road, approximately 800 feet south of its intersection with Contentment Island Road, and is shown on Assessor's map number 68 as lot number 8 in the R1 zone.
if you've been to the property, you can see that the former house is gone. It's now a vacant property, except for the fact that they kept the garage, which is on your left as you take the driveway up the hill. It's in the bottom of the plans, right there. So the proposal here is for a new house, which is kind of, if you are on the property at the top of the hill. So it's in the coastal area. There's a limited amount of filling. But one of the interesting issues on this application is that clearly, if you've been to the property, you can see that the new house is going at the top of the hill, which is about elevation 30. The flood zone in this part of Darien is generally 13 to 14. So clearly, the house will be well out of the flood zone. However, there's an error in the flood maps. And I think Doug has mentioned that on his plans, that the flood maps in this location are incorrect. And so that's one interesting twist is they have asked for the permit, and there's a little bit of work as you get to the lower elevation, but the house is well outside the flood zone. But I wanted to bring that to the commission's attention that, as you can see from the submitted survey and from Doug's plans, in fact, this survey from Seymour and Associates specifically says Zone AE, elevation 15, per FEMA mapping, but it really is Zone X. It's not in the flood zone. First floor of the new house will be 34, which is about 20 feet higher than the flood zone.
How do we get that fixed?
We've already sent a letter to FEMA.
Okay.
I don't even know if anyone's there to get them. So
Okay.
it's going to be
Yeah,
a
a while. All right, but we got experts weighing in. And
Right, clearly it's an error, but the applications for, as Doug noted, a new house in essentially the same place, pool, spa, pool house, garage. There's going to be we'll turn off the proposed driveway, so it'll be kind of an upper driveway area and a lower driveway area. And they're going to deal with water quality because they're right on the water.
Mr. DeVesta.
Good evening, Doug DeVesta, professional engineer. As Jeremy mentioned, we're going to utilize we're utilizing the existing driveway coming up to the upper parking court area. That would be gravel, and the little area to the south of it will be an additional parking area as well. Then you come off of that, you branch off into a lower parking area, which will be to get into the garages, and then you go to the second floor. So basically, the first floor will be at existing grade. And as Jeremy mentioned, house is almost in exactly the same location as the existing house. This property is on septic system. Existing septic system is located on the south side of the house. Now we're putting it down in the lower portion of the north side of the property. We found the best soils designed for a 6-bedroom house. We had comments from the health department. She had a couple comments. Mindy had a couple comments on there, which she didn't recognize in the plan. She asked me 4 comments. They were, one was about a percolation test. It was shown on the plan, but she didn't see it. Yeah, where the water line was located. Asked where the sewer line for the pool house was going to go. That was shown on the plan going across the septic tank. And one of it was a typo error that we called out for 74 feet in the plan was actually 75, so it was a typo. So I don't know if she sent an email up to Jeremy about approving this or not, but those are the comments she had given to me. Again, we're in the lower reaches of the watershed right on Long Island Sound, so we're looking for water quality. When we broke it up into several different locations, we've got one water quality basin here to pick up a portion of the house, one on the north side, the south side, and then one on the north side to pick up the parking court area. And the existing driveway is the existing driveway, so we're allowing that just to flow as it currently does. There will be some regrading on the property. As you come up the driveway, there's a retaining wall along the south side of the driveway. That's going to be removed and lowered down and accommodate a parking course. That area is going to be, the materials will be removed for that area as well.
So within the property, you're just cutting and refilling?
We're just cutting basically and removing from the site because there's really not a cutting and balancing fill there. We're bringing in fill material for the septic system, which is a select fill material because we got to bring in bubble edge rock. But the majority of the material will be coming out of this area right in here and taken off site here. The site is served by municipal water, so we have water on the site itself. Again, the pool is on the east side of the property, and that's really it. So again, as Jerry mentioned, the flood in the road, flood damage prevention, which is down here at 15 on both sides, at 34 elevation, so really well above that area. The other thing was coastal management, and you sent that to.
No comment back from the state on that. And we would talk before the meeting about blasting.
Right. So blasting, This area on the west side of the house is pretty much all rock, and that will be blasted out. No hammering, but I'll be blasting to get the material out off-site there. There might be some blasting for the foundation for the house. We dug a couple test holes in the existing driveway. We're down 6-7 feet, nothing, but doesn't mean that ledge rock is not around there. But a lot of outcrops of ledge rock in the area, so we're probably hitting some ledge rock potentially in the house location as well.
What about the pool?
The pool area, yes, there's some ledge rock right in this area here, so that probably do some blasting area, but that pool's also being raised up a little bit too.
So how much are you taking off the property?
Looking at taking off approximately figured approximately 900 cubic yards of material coming out.
Big.
Then we got about 800 cubic yards between select fill material and filling this area where the house is going, where the septic's going. So between select fill and that, again, because of the ledge rock, we had to bring the septic system up to meet health codes.
And you can't use whatever you take out?
Correct, not for that. No, we can't.
Any other questions? I don't see any. Anybody from the audience like to speak to this application? I don't see any. That's okay. Perfect. Oh, hello.
What's the date of that plan, Doug?
1/8/19.
Just leave that behind, because nothing's changed. Just maybe a test hole?
Oh, test hole location down there. Yes, that was it.
Oh, no, we have that one. That's the one the commission
Right,
has.
I
Okay,
had
great.
mailed it into you. Correct.
Do you have an idea of the extent of the blasting that's going to be required on the
How
site?
long?
Meaning what, Fred? Depth-wise?
Depth and
Time.
yeah.
Well, depth is, we're going from an elevation, this is about around 8 feet of blasting, potentially blasting in the garage, in the parking court area itself. I mean, so I'd probably couple 3 weeks maybe.
All right, so we gave you 3 weeks. That'd be plenty, like a 3-week time frame?
3 weeks, 4 weeks?
I would say 4.
We'll go 4 weeks if you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, we constraints around the times
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else, guys? Yes, no?
No, I was gonna say, is there a neighbor, they're pretty far away from,
One of the neighbors did submit a letter for the record, spoke to Fred earlier today, Mr. Smith, who's
To the
East.
east. Yeah.
His concern was the construction hours, not wanting the applicants to construct nights, weekends. I spoke to Doug DeVesta prior to meeting. Doug said for the outdoor work such as blasting or truck deliveries or things like that, unlikely to occur on a weekend.
Correct.
And unlikely to occur after 5 o'clock.
I think
or after.
we've always put hours in terms of blasting in the
Yeah.
resolutions.
Right.
Okay,
Well,
8 to 5 or something like
The
that.
neighbor was
On a
talking
weekday, yeah.
broader.
Yeah.
And, which is not usually limited by the commission.
Yes,
The
correct.
neighbor being that white, very modern.
Correct.
Yes,
Yes.
that's correct.
and the blasting is so far away, it wouldn't affect that property.
Right.
Well, they would do a pre-blast survey,
So
they'd
they-
have to get a permit from the
Still
fire
from
marshal.
them, okay. Well, how long is, sorry, maybe off topic, but how far away would it have to be that they wouldn't need one?
I
How
think
many feet?
I think they take all the properties within 100 feet usually.
100 feet?
If not more than that, I think it's even more
Maybe
than that.
more
I think
than
like
200?
500 feet, I think.
Really?
Oh,
I think so.
really?
I think,
From
I'm
the
not sure, I
border.
think,
Yeah,
I heard
I
that, I heard number 500 sometime, but yeah.
From the
It's out
border,
there.
Of your property.
not the site of the blasting?
No, the border.
Oh, it's
And then
500.
then to
yeah.
the west of
Okay.
us, it's a vacant lot. So
Right,
there's
there's
nobody
no one
there,
there.
there's one house beyond that, that comes off Contentment Island, so we're far
I mean,
enough
this
from that
stuff is
house.
regulated.
Okay, so it's
by
just that
not
one?
us.
Okay.
Right, it's just, so
Other
there's
than
really just
times.
that one contemporary house on east of us, is the closest house.
You're
Okay.
also within a Tokenique Association, too.
Correct.
Oh, that has hours as well,
Right.
yeah,
That's-
okay.
Okay, I didn't see anybody in the audience that wanted to speak to this application, so could I get a motion to close this application?
Close.
Second.
All in favor? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Number 6, coastal site plan review number 338, flood damage prevention application number 389, land filling and regrading application number 448. Ricardo DeBedout and Johanna Cubillos, 230 Long Neck Point Road, proposal to install an in-ground swimming pool and spa with associated terrace fence and landscaping, and install a dock in the adjacent waters of Long Island Sound, and perform road-related site development activities within regulated areas. The 1.01 acre subject property is located on the west side of Long Neck Point Road, approximately 0.35 miles south of this intersection with Pear Tree Point Road, and is shown on Assessor map number 61 as lot number 15A in the R1 zone.
Got a lot of coastal stuff tonight.
Oh my God.
Happen to all work out that way, a lot of houses right on the water. In this case, you've been to the site, they are currently gutting the existing house, taking out the doors, the windows, and they have a building permit to do some minor additions and alterations. Permit before you is the, which encroaches further down, closer to the water, which is the pool, and the dock, which has received necessary approval from the Army Corps of Engineers, and we got a letter from DEP saying they're about to approve that as well. You have an email from Darren Ostafy noting that Long Neck Point Road is a public road, and the property is tied to public sewer, and that the applicant should focus on water quality because they are right on Long Island Sound.
Okay, nothing?
Nothing else.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and Happy New Year. I don't think I've been here.
Oh, we haven't seen you.
Haven't seen me in a while.
Feels like we just saw you.
My name is Robert Maslin, and I represent the owners. With me tonight are Ricardo, I know I'm going to say this wrong, DeBedout.
You got it.
I got it.
Sorry if I
Sitting
butchered
right
that.
there.
I said it right? 10 years of French paid off for
James,
30 seconds.
you might
today.
know more French than he does, though, but that's, James Scatino is to the left of Ricardo, Corey Jorgensen from Wes Stout's office, and Doug DeVesta, project engineer. Jeremy, did you get an OLIS response?
Nope, state did not comment on this.
Okay.
But I presume that their tentative approval of the dock serves as de facto.
I would hope so.
Response on the dock?
And with that, I have a copy of Darren's email, but I guess that's already in the record, right?
Correct.
I do have a copy of the notice of tentative determination to approve the dock aspect of this project. I don't know if it made it to you yet, Jeremy. I know they usually copy the local
I don't see
people.
it here in the file, so.
But
if you
I'll
want to submit
give you a
it, that'd be
copy.
great.
And I have two support letters, one from each of the abutting neighbors, north and south. Mr. Roberto to the north and Shannon Bass to the south. And I didn't make a bunch of copies, they're pretty much one-liners. This property is down on Long Neck Point Road, down toward the southern end of it, closer to the point, on the west side, and it is the only property between the road and Long Island Sound at this point. I have a survey up on the board, road to the east, or along the right-hand side of the sheet. Over to the left is the open waters of the Long Island Sound. You can look out and see the New York skyline on a good day. Property's just over an acre. The upper portion up to about where the existing house ends and then back a little farther is fairly flat, and then it slopes down. So the house portion of it and the location where the pool is proposed is well above the flood elevation. And if you're wondering what this gray thing is here, this is a view easement that runs in favor of the property to the north, and there's a reciprocal easement that starts at the same point and extends across the other property that's in favor of this property. These pictures are copies of the pictures that are in the application. I don't think we need to go through them if you've read the application. The project is, notice indicates is twofold. One, a new in-ground swimming pool at the uphill end of this 100-foot upland review area or coastal review area, and surrounding terrace. The pool fence will be fairly tight to this. Running, I know you're going to ask about it, so I'll just point it out. It'll run along losing my, right along in here, out to a fence along the southern boundary, down here, then up, running along this side, and then around back to the house. Excuse me, the pool equipment is going to be up more than 100 feet away from mean high water, so that's outside the coastal review area, I guess you'd call it. The other aspect is a dock that Jeremy and I were just talking about. This is almost through the permitting process with the Army Corps and DEP. The Army Corps has approved it, DEP has issued the tentative approval. The part that you're concerned with is this little patio, which has a small, little sort of retaining wall to leave a flat patio with a bench in it and steps to go down toward it. These little vertical lines are sort of steps built into the lawn. They're not concrete steps as you would think, but they're just steps. Corey can explain it to you a little better. All right, so what I think I would do is have...
One question, yeah.
Yes.
Just, we tried to keep pools out of coastal review areas, not a requirement.
What's that?
We've tried in the past to keep pools out of coastal review
Right.
areas. So if you could just give us some thoughts of why the location of the pool there. I mean, it's existing structure, I guess.
It's an existing structure.
Yeah.
It's the best feasible location for it. At the front is mostly driveway here. There's not really much room to have a good location here. The house predates Coastal Management Act, so this is where we're left. The house itself is suitable for this location. There's a porch over here that's going to be closed in as part of the project. The architect is here. If you've been to the site, you've seen work underway. That's all previously permitted. It's outside the 100 feet. But if you're interested in the rest of the project, you want to ask questions, he's here. What I thought I'd do is have Doug DeBedout talk about the engineering, and then Corey talk about the landscape architecture, which is pretty simple.
Perfect.
Because it's pretty heavily
Thank you.
vegetated already. Along the boundaries, that is. Okay. Is this what you want?
Good evening, Doug DeBedout, professional engineer. We were asked to look at the water quality, because again, we're in the lower reaches of the watershed and right on Long Island Sound. So what we did is a water quality collection of the proposed additions and half of the house, part of the back part of the garage, part of the front portion of the house that drains towards Long Island Sound, all going to a water quality basin subsurface, which consists of the first inch of runoff from the impervious surfaces. Also, this house was on sewer. A low pressure system was put in Long Neck Point Road many years ago, not many years ago, a few years ago. And this house was never hooked into it, so that's one of the part of the process too. We're putting a E1 grinder pump, pumping up the low pressure system and let it go on into the system itself, and then abandoning the existing septic system. We are collecting water from the new terraces around the pool, and that's also going to be going into the water quality basin as well. That's really it for the system itself, and Bob has talked about the dock and the patio area down by the sound here.
So the patio areas, that's the little...
Just a little area. It's really not much we can do about that, collecting that water, so it's really very little. I mean, talking maybe, I think it's like maybe 100 square feet or something like that, that much, so. Anything else?
Usually when the water from the impervious surfaces goes into that catch basin, whatever, how does it get out of there?
Through infiltration, exfiltration. If it's too much, then it'll bubble out through a 4-inch grate on top of the system. So it'll bubble out on the ground and then sheet flow down along through the grass area down to Long Island, down to the Sound.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Right. Looks like a lot of grass.
There's a lot of grass there. Corey Jorgensen, I'm with Wesley Stout Associates Landscape Architects. Yes, there's a lot of existing lawn, so we're keeping as much of it as we can. So it's pretty, as Bob explained, coming out of the existing home, coming down to an upper terrace, roughly a foot or so below the first floor. And then we come down a series of steps, come down about 2 feet. Didn't want to have too much of a drop at that point, which puts the pool at, we're coming close to grade at the stairs here. But as we come out, we're going to be above grade. So the pool actually sits about 2 feet above existing grade. So from this point, this is all concrete, stone, slab. From this point, we come down. We have what we call lawn steps with stone and concrete on the vertical. To soften the steps, but we need to make that transition from the 2 feet up at the pool, coming down to the lawn area. So that's what we see here. Same thing picks up here, again, because this is where the existing slopes are a little heavier. So to help them kind of make the transition down to our patio. Low retaining wall, it's about 2 feet retaining for this little patio area.
So can you just point out the retaining wall on your plans?
Right here?
Okay.
So it's gonna be like a bench where you can sit in front of it.
Bench where
Cross
you
your
can
legs and
sit,
watch
yeah,
the water,
you can
watch the
sit
sunset.
at the fire pit, you can, right at the dock, come off the boat, sit there.
Right, what's unusual is patios have an 8-foot setback, and if you look at the plans, the coastal jurisdiction line is that setback. It has to be 10 feet off that.
The patio needs to be 10
Or
feet
8
up.
feet, rather.
8 feet, okay.
And it is?
It is.
It is.
Okay.
Is it 9? Is that what it says? I'm looking at? Is that a height?
I don't think it's specifically called out, but I've just looked at it right here.
Yeah.
I think 9's the height of it says top of the wall 9.
But it's cut into the slope.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions?
I can point that out a little more clearly.
I'll pull it up there.
The coastal jurisdiction line is here, but the boundary for purposes of that 8 feet
That's the other side of the wall.
is all the way over here. So it's well over 8 feet.
Okay.
I
Thank
looked
you.
at it previously, but yeah, I'm sure.
It's fine, it's just gonna look odd, like it's right up to the wall, but the wall is not the property line.
Understood. Okay.
Done? Questions?
Any other questions? Anybody from the audience like to talk about this? Ask questions? Seeing none? I think that's it. So could I get a motion to close this public hearing?
Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Excellent.
Number 7, coastal site plan review, number 298C, flood damage prevention application, number 390, Deborah Jaroch, 148 Jaroch, sorry. I got all the hard names today. 148 Goodwives River Road.
That's why I gave you that job.
You make friends.
Proposal to construct and install a dock consisting of a 2x4 concrete access pad, a 4x50 fixed pile supported timber pier, and a 3x30 aluminum ramp, and a 6x16.66 float with a 15x17 boat lift, and perform related site development activities within regulated areas. The 1.616 acre subject property is located on the east side of Goodwives River Road, approximately 150 feet north of its intersection with Rings End Road, and is shown on Assessor's map number 62 as lot number 86, and is located in the R1 zone.
You may recall the commission saw this property a few months ago relative to a pool and associated retaining wall. The applicant's now here to ask for permit for the proposed dock and boat lift. The application went to the state of Connecticut DEP. I believe you have a copy of that approval dated December 13th.
So our jurisdiction's pretty limited.
Pretty limited. Our jurisdiction is that landward area, the concrete pad, which is at elevation 9, which goes, you may recall the property has a stone wall and then some wetlands, and then you get down to the water. So there's an area, I'll call it landward of the stone wall, and that extends a little bit but you're right, most of the work, John, is proposed below elevation 5.5, so it's just a small part, which is in the Planning and Zoning Commission jurisdiction. And the applicant and her team are here to answer any questions about the pier, the ramp, the float, only a small portion of which is in P&Z jurisdiction, but they have to get out into the water, and that's why it's so long.
Hi.
Hi.
Deborah Jaroch, owner.
I mean, do you have anything else to add to what Jeremy explained?
No.
That's good.
I didn't bring any board either.
Yeah, no, that's okay. We see a lot of these, and typically the jurisdiction's so small, and I don't think we've ever had a problem with it. Have we, on any of these landings?
No, this one.
And this is pretty much straight.
But it's the unique fact that you have to get out over the wall, over the wetlands, and then into the waters. That's why it was designed specifically like this.
And then we don't have any call on the boat lift or anything like that.
No.
So,
That's all in state jurisdiction.
all right. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Yar?
The walkway to there goes, is it like wooden or something? Do you care about that?
It's a little platform, and then the walkway beyond that is wooden. And it's above the wetlands, so it's not crushing the flora, the fauna, it still will grow underneath.
That's what it is.
Sounds pretty straightforward. No questions, right? Anybody out in the audience? Don't see any, but a couple people. Can I get a motion to close this public hearing?
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great job, Deb. Come back again, that was simple. Chris, you did a great job.
Okay, so we got some minutes, right? Or did I cut it? Wait, did we want to deliberate on any of these, or how do you want to, what's your schedule look like?
We will try to, next week and the week after, so Fred and I, there were, I think, 5 applications tonight. We'll try to get to as many as we can next week, and the ones we don't get to next week, we'll get to the week after.
Okay, do you want to just quickly go through, I mean, every one seemed extremely straightforward.
The only issues I have are the blasting times
Yep.
for
Yes.
item number 5. And,
18 Shennamere?
yeah, and then for Kent is the removal of those two, the AC and the
Yeah.
generator, the only
Yep.
2 notes that I had, right?
Same.
Okay.
And, yeah, you were
And do
clear.
we care, I mean, the generator is at, what was it, 8.5?
It's regulatory.
I know.
So it would be
Seems
5 feet in the
silly
air.
on that street.
No, it's gotta be out of the flood zone.
Is that out of the flood zone?
It's flood zone, it would have to be at or above, I think, 13.
Right.
So
So it's
if they
8
put
in
it on the side of the garage, it would be 5 feet in the air. So as Kent has noted, sometimes in the past, the commission has said either noise attenuation or screen it with some kind of plantings.
Right.
Yeah, and he said plantings,
No,
somebody
I
said
care less
plantings.
about that, I'm talking about more of water.
You know, it's funny, sometimes applicants put it a little higher above that.
I mean, I don't know, it seemed like 8.5 is like still, it's getting to be
No,
iffy.
It's 8.5 plus 5.
It's gonna be at elevation 13, it'll be on a
It's gotta be
platform.
13.
It's out of the flood zone, yeah.
Oh,
On the
I'm sorry.
side, on the
So it's
side.
8.5 plus 5. Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
I was like, if it's not above 10, it was like,
Yeah,
you're right.
I was worried.
Exactly right, it would keep getting water if
Yeah,
it
I was
wasn't
like, how are you
lifted.
gonna, okay, that's fine. Sorry, I was
Find a
confused.
new one.
Yeah, lots of new ones.
Exactly, or put a snorkel on it or something. Okay.
Exactly.
All right, so those, yeah, and those are the
We're
only
good.
2 items I had. Well, also shielding around that generator, okay?
Yep.
Or it wasn't shielding, it was
Landscaping.
landscaping.
The neighbor's gonna be all over.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's really what it
Okay.
is. Word.
Dwight Collins, CRS 50, 10-minute separation between classes,
Yeah.
11 stations,
Yeah.
47 5 Mile.
Yeah,
to Shennamere.
just say, classes are not to exceed 15.
Yep,
Because that was they presented 11, so we'll just give them up to 15, just in case somehow they can squeeze a few others
But they're
in.
limited
It's
to the-
impossible, because you have to be on the megaform.
It's-
But whatever.
This is beyond my expertise, since I don't work out too often.
Very good work.
Come on, look at you. Fix yourself.
Stress. And
Did
you
he
kept
say-
on saying CRS, wasn't it CTS?
Fred?
Can you just,
believe-
we don't have to look at it now. Can you get the right name in there?
We'll
Okay.
clarify.
Because it was different in, I think, the submitted materials than what you guys,
Yep.
what you were, kept on saying. Jerry.
Clarify name. Yep.
So
But there's
just
another
fix that.
workout place that has a different name that's very similar,
Okay,
Ah,
that you approved.
we'll
That's
keep an eye out. Okay,
okay.
good call.
So just make sure you grab that. And let's see, this last one,
230 Long Neck and 148 Goodwives.
yeah, just what they presented.
Okey-dokey.
So whatever,
We'll try to get as many of them next week. If not, it will be the week after.
Okay, so that was deliberations of public hearings that we closed to this evening. We did that. Approval of minutes. We start with, I believe, January 8th. I did not see. Hold on, there's one. No, there's nothing on this one. I'm good. Anybody else have anything?
Nothing.
Nope.
Okay, so can I get approval of the January 8th minutes as submitted?
So move.
Second?
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
5-0.
And then January 16th. I guess my only little change I wanted you to add maybe in that first page, at the bottom of the first page, is that the commission recommended we split the public hearings between the municipal use zone and the,
Yes.
okay?
And
If
the
you could
other
just add
changes.
that, and that was it for me.
I was not here, so I abstained from it. I haven't seen it on TV yet.
Okay.
Since the damn fest.
I was here, but I had nothing.
Anybody? You weren't here, Jennifer,
I was
right?
here.
Kevin was here.
Abstained.
Okay, so we will, can I get an approval with that small change?
Approve as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
3-0, 2 abstentions.
Great. And do you have a calendar update for us?
Sure, next week, we will be meeting, it won't be too long a meeting. I think we're gonna have an executive session with John Luizos, Attorney John Luizos, for part of the meeting. You obviously have one of the items tonight, which was continued, which was the proposed ice rink at 676 Hollow Tree Ridge Road. And then Highland Farm, and then Leroy West was continued to next week, but that might get postponed even further.
Okay.
And then February 5th, after that, should be a relatively light evening, and the late February deadline passed, and we didn't get a lot of applications for that. And we're working on a subsequent meeting with Glenn sometime in February. So right now, February seems to be hopefully uneventful.
So the 5th for sure.
5th for sure, and then after that, not so sure.
Oh, okay, got it.
Because there's a week off for school vacation in there.
Yep.
So we won't meet that week, but we might add a meeting or cancel or move, or instead of having 2 meetings, just have 1 meeting.
Perfect.
Can you just check the occupancy, to your knowledge, of 77 Leroy, when they ever do come back?
Check the what?
The occupancy.
What is the current occupancy
Oh,
of
okay,
the
sure.
building?
'Cause they keep leasing apartments.
And what, and then the extension on White for?
Yes, that will be next week as well.
Next week, okay. Perfect. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Could I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? It is 9:05. Thank you, TV 79. Thank you, Bonnie.